Imagine waking up tomorrow, grabbing your coffee, checking your phone, and you see this massive breaking news alert.
Right, like front page stuff.
Exactly.
Right.
And the headline says your hometown, like the exact streets you drive every single day, just struck oil.
And we are not talking about some tiny minor deposit here.
No, no, we mean a world-class, multi-billion-dollar reservoir of black gold just sitting right under your feet or, right off your local beach.
Your first reaction would be absolute euphoria? Or...
Oh, 100%. You'd instantly start picturing your town just completely transforming overnight.
You'd imagine that old, crumbling high school finally getting replaced with this state-of-the-art campus.
Yeah, and every single pothole on Main Street getting paved over. Smooth, fresh asphalt everywhere.
New hospitals popping up.
Booming local businesses, a massive influx of jobs. I mean, it feels like a mathematical certainty, right? You find a valuable resource, you extract it, everyone gets rich.
It is, honestly, the ultimate modern fairy tale. And that assumption is so deeply baked into our minds.
Everyone believes it.
Exactly. The public believes it. Local politicians campaign on it constantly. Even for decades, certain branches of economic development theory just treated it as a baseline assumption.
The idea being that a massive financial windfall just automatically elevates the standard of living for everyone around it.
Right. It seems like common sense.
But, and here is the huge conflict we are diving into today.
Yeah.
What if I told you that striking oil might actually be one of the worst things that could possibly happen to your town?
It sounds totally backward.
It really does. But what if that winning lottery ticket, all those billions of dollars, was actually a curse? A curse that leaves regular citizens exactly where they started.
Or in some really dark cases, actively worse off.
Yeah. And that insane paradox is exactly what we're unpacking in today's deep dive.
Economists usually call this the resource curse, or, the paradox of plenty.
Right. And historically, we've seen this play out on a massive global scale, haven't we?
Oh, absolutely. You look at certain countries with vast natural resource wealth, and surprisingly, they often have lower economic growth.
Less stable democracies, too.
Yeah, and much worse human development outcomes than countries with almost zero natural resources.
But see, usually when people talk about the resource curse, it's this huge macro-level conversation. They talk about entire nations.
Which can get a bit abstract.
Exactly. So today, we are not doing that. We are zooming all the way in. We are taking a microscopic lens to track the exact dollars and cents on a local municipal level.
Getting right down to the neighborhood level.
Yes. Our mission for this deep dive is to answer one brutally simple but incredibly frustrating question. When a local town strikes it rich, where does the money actually go?
And to answer that, we are relying on a truly groundbreaking piece of research.
Yeah, this study is fascinating.
It really is. We are unpacking research by Francesco Caselli and Guy Michaels from the London School of Economics.
They managed to crack this puzzle using incredibly precise, localized data from Brazil.
And what makes this research so compelling is how it just completely shatters that illusion of the resource windfall.
It is a total slap in the face to common sense.
It really exposes this terrifying gap between the wealth that exists on paper, the spreadsheets, and the gritty physical reality of the citizens.
Because they aren't just investigating the oil industry here.
No, they're using oil as a very specific lens. They want to understand fiscal windfalls in general.
Right, asking that fundamental question. What happens when a local government gets a massive influx of cash that it didn't have to earn?
And crucially, it didn't have to tax its citizens to get.
Okay, so let's unpack this. If we want to definitively prove that oil wealth doesn't help regular people, we immediately hit a huge wall.
The methodology wall.
Right. Because I can't just point to Norway, then point to Nigeria, then Canada and Venezuela, and try to draw a straight line.
There are way too many variables.
Exactly. Cross-country comparisons are a nightmare. You're dealing with different legal systems, different colonial histories, different cultures.
Completely different baseline levels of infrastructure.
So if an oil-rich country is poor, a skeptic could just say, well, it's not the oil. It's because they had a currency crisis or a dictator. You can't isolate the oil.
Precisely. So to find the truth, you need a completely sterile laboratory.
A perfect testing ground.
Yes, where all those messy, confounding variables are controlled for. You need a scenario where the laws are identical, the culture is identical, the history is identical.
And that brings us to why this LSE study is so brilliant. That sterile laboratory is Brazil.
But using Brazil wasn't easy. The researchers had to overcome a really strange logistical hurdle first.
Oh, right, the exploding towns.
Exactly. Over the last few decades, the number of municipalities in Brazil, which are essentially local counties, just exploded. They kept splitting into smaller and smaller pieces.
Which is so weird. Why would a town actively choose to chop itself in half?
Mostly it was a perverse financial incentive. The Brazilian federal government assigns tax transfers based on population brackets.
Okay.
But the amount of money a town receives per capita strongly decreases as the town gets larger.
Oh, wow. So it's a bracket system that literally punishes you for growing.
Exactly. So if you're a medium town of 50,000 people, you get X amount. But if you split down the middle into two towns of 25,000...
The federal formula treats those two new towns way better.
Yes. Collectively, they pull significantly more federal money than the one medium town did.
That is wild. But from a data tracking perspective, tracking economic growth over 30 years when the borders keep moving must be a nightmare.
An absolute nightmare. If you just used current town names, your data would be garbage.
So how did they fix it?
A Brazilian research institute created these statistical constructs called AMCs, minimum comparable areas.
So they basically glued the puzzle pieces back together.
Perfectly said. They grouped the fragmented towns back into stable blocks. The borders of these AMCs stayed completely static from 1970 through the 2000s.
Giving us a clean map.
Right. They ended up with over 3,600 of these stable areas covering all of Brazil.
Okay, so the lab is prepped. Out of these 3,600 areas, the vast majority are our control group. Like over 3,500 of them have zero oil.
Just regular communities. Same federal law, same culture, same currency. The real.
And then you have the treatment group. 103 oil-rich counties.
31 strictly offshore and 63 strictly onshore.
It's literally like having thousands of identical twins. They grew up the exact same way. And then, totally at random, you hand 100 of them a winning lottery ticket.
And you just sit back and watch what happens to their lives compared to the twins who didn't win.
But wait, we have to be sure it's random, right? If the towns that got the oil were already rich, the experiment is ruined.
Absolutely. The researchers had to prove this was pure geographic luck.
Did they check the history?
They did. They went all the way back to the 1970 census, before the major oil discoveries.
And what did it show? Did the oil towns look different back then?
Statistically, zero difference. Once you control for basic geography, the towns that eventually struck oil were entirely indistinguishable from the ones that didn't.
Identical twins.
Exactly. The oil was a completely random shock. And remember, the local mayors aren't the ones digging.
Right. It's Petrobras doing the drilling, the massive national energy corporation.
Yes. They drill based on global geology and satellite imaging, not because a local mayor of a tiny coastal town asked them nicely.
So the local town has zero power over where the oil is found. Nature put it there.
Exactly.
Okay. The stage is set. The lottery ticket is cashed. Petrobras is pumping the oil. Let's look at the market data.
This is where we hit our first massive cognitive dissonance.
Because logically, if a billion-dollar industry moves into your county, you expect a massive boom, a spillover effect.
Classic multiplier effect, yeah.
Like if a car factory opens, they hire locals. Those locals have money, they go to the diner hires more waiters. The whole non-car economy gets pulled up.
The rising tide that lifts all boats.
Right. So does Petrobras do that? Do the local businesses boom?
The data here is genuinely hard to wrap your head around. In these Brazilian counties, 1 real of extra value from oil production translates to exactly 1 real of total local GDP.
Wait, let me make sure I'm hearing that right. $1 of oil is produced, and the total economy only grows by $1.
Yes.
Which means the spillover effect for the rest of the town is zero.
Zero, absolutely zero.
That is insane.
To a first approximation, the oil industry provides no boost to the non-oil economy. They don't buy from local hardware stores. They don't hire local management.
The local farmers, retail shops, they get absolutely nothing from this massive market operation.
Nothing. It completely defies how we assume economies work.
It's like a giant UFO just drops down, sucks the black gold out of the ground, beams the value into the global market, and flies away.
That's a very accurate visual. But to really understand why this happens, we need to split the data between offshore and onshore towns.
Okay, let's start with offshore, because that one seems the most isolated.
Think about a deep-sea oil rig. What is it, physically?
It's literally a metal island, miles out in the ocean.
Exactly. A highly specialized, self-contained ecosystem. You don't just put up a flyer in the local coastal town looking for deep-sea drill operators.
You need petroleum engineers.
And those engineers are flown in via helicopter from major hubs like Rio. They don't live in the local town.
The equipment is probably imported globally, too.
All of it. Even the food for the crew is catered centrally and flown out.
Yeah.
And the oil itself pumps straight into tankers or trunk pipelines.
So it never even touches the town's soil.
Never touches the soil, and the money never touches the local cash registers. For offshore towns, there is literally zero change to the non-oil economy. It's a ghost ship.
Okay, the ghost ship makes sense. But what about the onshore towns? Because there, the pump jacks are physically in their backyards.
Right, you can see them.
The workers have to drive through the town square. Surely they stop and buy a sandwich, right?
You're right to push back. The onshore data does show a shift, but it is definitely not the utopian boom you'd expect.
What is it then?
It's a micro-level case of a phenomenon called Dutch disease.
Dutch disease. Okay, I've heard that term. It sounds like a plague from the 1600s involving tulips.
It does, but it's an economic concept. Usually it's about national currency. A country finds gas, foreign money floods in, their currency skyrockets.
And suddenly their other exports are too expensive for the rest of the world to buy.
Exactly. But these tiny Brazilian towns don't have their own currency. They use the real.
So how do they catch Dutch disease?
Here, the disease is driven by local labor and land. The onshore oil operation does need some local inputs. Basic construction, security, land leases.
And because they are a massive oil company, they have deep pockets.
Right. They can afford to pay slightly higher wages or rents than the local businesses.
Which sounds good for those specific workers. But what does it do to the local factories?
It starves them out.
Yeah.
The data shows that in onshore towns, local manufacturing actually shrinks.
Wait, having oil pumped out of your land kills your factories?
Yes. For every 1 reel of onshore oil GDP, local industrial manufacturing drops by about 25 cents.
Because the local widget factory can't compete with the wages the oil company is paying the security guards.
Exactly. Or the cost of land goes up just enough to crush their profit margins. They have to close.
Oh, wait, what about the sandwiches? The workers still need services.
And that is the other half of the equation. At the exact same time manufacturing drops by 25 cents, local services grow by exactly 25 cents.
Ah, okay, so the economy is just physically transforming.
Yes. The factory worker loses his job making widgets, but gets a new job serving lunch to the rig workers.
But the net gain to the non-oil economy is still zero.
Because the 25-cent drop perfectly offsets the 25-cent gain, the total pie doesn't get a millimeter bigger, it just gets sliced differently.
That is wild. So whether it's offshore or onshore, the free market completely fails to share the wealth.
The citizens are not experiencing a rising tide from the private sector at all.
Which leaves exactly one avenue for this to work. If the free market won't do it, the local government has to step in.
Exactly. The only way the town benefits is if the mayor taxes the oil, captures that wealth, and spends it on the people.
So here's the multi-million-dollar question. Did the local governments actually get rich?
Oh, they got insanely, incomprehensibly rich.
Okay, talk me through the mechanics of this. How does the cash physically get from Petrobras to a small coastal town mayor?
The Brazilian royalty rules are a massive labyrinth, but the volume of money is staggering. Petrobras has to pay close to 10% of the gross output value in royalties and taxes.
10% of gross output, not profit gross.
Yes, it is a colossal pie. And that pie gets sliced up, the Navy gets a cut, the state governments get a cut.
But what about the local towns?
As a rough estimate, the local municipalities are the ultimate beneficiaries of about 30% of that total royalty pie.
So nearly a third of that massive tax goes straight into the local town's bank account.
Yes. And the rules for deciding which town gets the money are absolutely wild, especially for offshore oil.
Oh, I bet. Because there are no fences in the ocean.
Yeah.
How do you decide who owns an oil field 100 miles out?
The Brazilian Geographical Institute had to literally draw lines out into the ocean, but they couldn't agree on the geometry.
You're kidding.
No. So they created 2 completely distinct, overlapping sets of maritime borders.
2 maps.
Yes. One map draws lines perpendicular to the coast. The other draws parallel lines extending from the town borders.
And because the coast is jagged, those maps put the oil in totally different municipal zones.
Exactly. So Town A claims it under Map 1, Town B claims it under Map 2.
How on earth did they resolve that?
They just split the baby. 50% of the money goes based on the perpendicular map and 50% based on the parallel map.
That sounds like a bureaucratic nightmare designed by a geometry teacher.
It really does. But if your town happens to fall inside one of those arbitrary lines, it is an absolute goldmine.
Just a total jackpot.
To put it in perspective, for the top 25 oil towns in Brazil, These royalties made up a massive 30% of their entire municipal budget.
30% of their total income is just free money falling from the sky.
Exactly. They didn't have to raise property taxes. They didn't have to build a local business sector. They did nothing.
Okay, so the mayors are sitting on mountains of cash.
Ah,
And we know what these towns should look like because we have the non-oil control group.
right.
So what do the official budget reports say the mayors did with the money? On paper, what does it look like?
If you only look at the official audit submitted to the central government, the mayors look like visionary heroes.
Really? So the accountants say it's all good.
The researchers analyzed how every single extra marginal oil dollar was supposedly spent, and the ledger paints a picture of an absolute utopia.
Give me the breakdown.
According to the paperwork, almost 20% of the new oil money is instantly poured into housing and urban development.
Okay, building homes, improving streets. Love it.
Education gets a massive boost, about 13%. Transportation gets 13%. Health and sanitation gets 10%.
Wow. So over 50 cents of every single new dollar is supposedly poured directly into housing, schools, roads, and hospitals.
Plus another 5% going directly to social welfare transfers for the poorest citizens.
On paper, this is flawless.
The balance sheets are perfect. The money came in and it was supposedly spent on the people.
Which means if I drive into one of these top 25 oil towns, it should look like a shining city on a hill.
You'd expect zero slums, pristine schools, amazing hospitals.
Right. And this is where we cross the threshold, isn't it? We are leaving the spreadsheets and stepping into physical reality.
Yes. And listener, if you've ever felt cynical about politics, this data is going to validate every suspicion you've ever had.
Here comes the slap in the face.
The researchers knew a spreadsheet is just a claim. So they checked the Brazilian household census to verify the physical reality. They checked the plumbing. They counted the actual teachers.
Let's start with housing. The budget said 20% went to urban development. What did the census show?
The census showed that the percentage of people living in favelas, which are informal, highly impoverished slums, did not decrease at all.
Wait, tens of millions of rays poured in, and the slums didn't shrink by a single inch.
Not 1 inch.
But did they at least get utilities? Piped water?
They checked. Percentage of households connected to piped water. Zero improvement compared to non-oil towns. Garbage collection. Zero improvement.
Sewage networks.
Absolutely no improvement. Paved roads. Statistically insignificant.
How is that physically possible? If 20% of a massive fortune was spent on housing, something has to exist.
It's entirely possible when the money vanishes. In fact, in some models, particularly offshore towns, the coefficient for housing quality actually went negative.
You're saying getting millions in oil money made the housing statistically worse?
There is evidence suggesting exactly that. At best, it absolutely did not improve. The money hit the bank, the mayor logged it as spent, but the public goods do not exist.
That is infuriating. But let's play devil's advocate. Infrastructure takes years to build. Let's look at education. You don't need a decade to hire a teacher.
Oh, the education data is perhaps the most glaring example of waste in the entire paper. We can call this the million-dollar teacher's absurdity.
Okay, break this down. Did they hire teachers?
The data does show a tiny, measurable increase in the number of teachers.
That's something.
Until you do the math. They calculated the ratio of money spent to physical teachers hired. An extra 1 million raise in the municipal budget resulted in exactly 4 new teachers.
Wait, hold on. Let me do this math slowly.
Please do.
If 1 million raise drops in, the budget says 13% goes to education. So that's 130,000 raise allocated to schools.
Yes.
And you're telling me that 130,000 bought the town exactly 4 teachers.
Correct. And even then, only after a 5-year lag.
Which means each new teacher effectively cost the town budget roughly 32,500 raise.
Yes.
What was the average annual local income at the time?
Roughly 4,000 raise a year.
You have got to be kidding me.
So either these primary school teachers are suddenly being paid 8 times the average local income.
Which we know isn't true.
Right. Or there is a massive amount of missing money bleeding out of the education budget. The implicit price the government is paying is astronomically disconnected from reality.
So where does it go? Gold-plated chalkboards, ghost employees on the payroll.
Wildly inflated procurement contracts, administrative bloat, fake vendors. It's a black hole.
Okay, the schools are a black hole. What about healthcare? The budget claimed 10% went to health. Did they get better clinics?
The health data is similar, but with a deeply tragic twist. It's a phenomenon we can call medical crowding out.
Crowding out. How?
Well, first, the direct social welfare transfers for the poor completely stagnated. Not a single extra cent made it to the vulnerable, despite the ledger claims.
Unbelievable. But what about the actual medical facilities?
In Brazil, healthcare is mixed. You have municipal clinics, but also state and federal clinics operating in the town.
Okay, so higher levels of government are helping out.
Yes, but when a local town suddenly gets filthy rich with oil royalties, the higher level governments notice.
Oh, no. Let me guess.
The state and feds look at the map and say, well, this town just got $100 million raise. They don't need our federal funding anymore. Let's redirect our money to a poorer town.
Which would be totally fine if the local mayor was actually using the oil wealth to build local clinics efficiently.
Precisely. But we just proved they are entirely corrupt and inefficient. So the state pulls out, the local government fails to replace the lost facilities, and what happens?
The total supply of healthcare shrinks.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The overall supply of outpatient medical care gets worse. The citizens literally have fewer places to go when they are sick than they did before they struck oil.
That is just a complete tragedy. They are sliding backward.
They really are.
Which leads to a huge sociological question.
Yeah.
If a town claims it's spending millions on free healthcare and housing, people normally vote with their feet, right?
Yeah.
They move there.
Exactly. Rational actors migrate toward economic opportunity. Did they move to these oil towns?
Did they?
This is undeniable proof. The population growth of the oil towns from 1970 to 2005 was mathematically identical to the non-oil towns.
Zero population boom.
None. The citizens aren't stupid. They can see right through the paper budgets. They know there are no real jobs. The favelas are still there. The hospitals are vanishing. So nobody moves there.
Okay, we have to pause here. The millions of reais are real. The money is physically leaving Petrobras and entering the town's bank accounts. That is a fact.
Yes.
But the favelas aren't shrinking. The schools aren't getting built. The money is entering the town, but it's not reaching the streets.
Right.
Wealth doesn't just vaporize. Someone, somewhere, must have something to show for it. Where did the physical wealth go?
That was the exact puzzle. To find it, the researchers used census microdata to look for hidden clues. Specifically, they looked at housing again, but broken down by occupation.
Oh, I see where this is going.
They asked whose houses specifically are getting bigger.
And let me guess. It wasn't the factory worker.
The average private citizen saw zero change in their house size. But when they isolated the data for people who worked for the municipal government,
Yep.
their houses got significantly larger.
It makes my blood boil.
The data showed a massive, statistically significant increase in the number of rooms for municipal employees.
So it didn't trickle down. It was a straight pipeline from the oil rig to the treasury, right into the personal real estate of the local bureaucrats.
Exactly. Which perfectly transitions us to the next phase. Missing millions, phantom teachers, government workers living in luxury. It is time to look at the police records.
Because eventually, the federal authorities have to notice money missing on this scale.
They absolutely do. The researchers text-mined the archives of Brazil's National News Agency and the federal police logs between 2003 and 2008.
What did they find?
A glaring correlation. The higher a town's absolute oil output, the significantly higher the probability the mayor was being investigated for embezzlement, fraud, and corruption.
It's just a straight mathematical link between oil cash and mayoral corruption.
Yes. And it gets darker. They also found a slight but significant increase in the homicide rate in these specific areas.
Wait, homicides?
Yes. Increased criminal activity, gang violence, violent political struggles. When hundreds of millions are sloshing around, fighting for the mayor's office becomes a matter of life and death.
You have to give me some case studies. How are they actually stealing this?
Let's look at Campos dos Goitacazes, the undisputed king of Brazilian oil towns at the time.
Okay.
In 2008, the federal police launched Operation Glass Ceiling. They busted a massive ring of local officials.
How much did they steal?
They were accused of diverting up to 240 million reais.
240 million? That was like, what, 140 million US dollars back then?
Roughly, yes. Stolen directly from the treasury.
How do you hide that much money?
Fake bidding schemes. The mayor announces a massive road paving project. They rig the public bidding so only shell companies controlled by their associates can win.
And the shell company does zero work.
Exactly. The money is laundered into private accounts. That's why the budget says housing. But the favela remains.
Give me another one. This is fascinating.
The town of Kauari, Operation Vorax. The mayor and his associates were running a criminal organization, faking public works projects to steal an estimated 50 million reais.
Just invoicing the city for phantom buildings.
Yes, and it was incredibly toxic. 24 hours after a local newspaper reported on the quarry scandal, their headquarters was shot up.
Good Lord, it really is a Game of Thrones. But this leads to my biggest question.
What's that?
If my mayor stole $140 million, there would be pitchforks. The voters would riot. How do they survive the next election?
This brings us to the shield of ignorance. The researchers looked at a public opinion survey in Campos, that extremely rich oil town.
So everyone there should know they're rich.
You'd think. But when surveyed, 66% of the residents vastly underestimated the amount of oil money the town was getting.
Oh.
And in a previous survey, they just asked people, do you know what a royalty is? 58% didn't even know what the word meant.
58%. They had no idea this massive revenue stream even existed.
None. A local bulletin tried to wake people up by publishing that just 1 year of royalty money could physically build almost 19,000 social housing units.
Just 1 year. And yet the favelas didn't shrink. It's sickening. But if you don't know the money is there, you can't be angry it's stolen.
Well, exactly. You can't audit a budget you've never been taught to understand. Ignorance is the exact shield corrupt politicians need.
Which brings up a huge theoretical point. Corrupt politicians exist everywhere. So why is this specific oil money so much easier to steal than regular taxes?
That is the core question. We have to look at the psychology of political science here. It revolves around a concept we can call stealability.
Stealability. Okay, explain that.
Think about normal towns. When a government wants to build a road, they raise property taxes or sales taxes.
Right. And when they do, I feel that pain immediately. It comes out of my paycheck.
Exactly. And because of that financial pain, you pay intense attention. If taxes go up for potholes, you are out there looking for fixed potholes.
I am at the town hall demanding receipts.
The political cost of stealing regular tax money is incredibly high because the voters are watching like hawks.
But oil royalties are different.
They fall from the sky. They don't come out of the citizens' pockets. The citizens didn't sacrifice wages to fund them.
So there's zero public oversight.
Exactly. The money is politically invisible. It enters the treasury silently, making it incredibly low risk for bureaucrats to pocket.
It's like a pickpocket stealing your wallet versus a mailman stealing a package you didn't even know you ordered.
That is a perfect analogy. You never complain about the missing package. And this high stealability of untaxed windfalls exposes the fatal flaw of global transparency initiatives.
Wait, I thought transparency was the cure for corruption. International orgs preach it constantly.
It's the proposed cure, but the reality is dark. Transparency is a complete illusion if it only exists on paper.
What do you mean?
Global initiatives demand developing governments publish their budgets. Show us your spreadsheets, they say. But as this study proved, if you only look at the balance sheet, it balances.
Right. The mayor says, look, I got 10 million, and the spreadsheet clearly says I spend it all on housing and schools. It's totally transparent.
The paperwork is flawless. The international auditors pat the mayor on the back and move on.
While the mayor's cousin deposits the money from a fake construction company.
Precisely. True transparency is an illusion unless auditors physically travel to the town, walk into an empty dirt field, and ask the mayor, where's the hospital you claimed you built?
You have to physically count the bricks.
If you don't count the bricks, transparency is just a shield for corruption.
Wow. That completely changes how you view local governance.
Mm.
We need to summarize this. We started by asking where the money goes when a town strikes oil.
And the data gives us an unequivocally clear answer. A massive influx of oil wealth does not automatically equal prosperity.
The free market fails to spill over, and the government completely breaks down.
Without painful taxpayer oversight, resource windfalls just supercharge corruption. They inflate paper budgets, buy bigger houses for bureaucrats, and leave citizens worse off.
It is the ultimate bait and switch. You think you won the lottery, but you just funded a criminal enterprise in your own town hall.
It really is.
Which leaves me with a final provocative thought for you, the listener, to mull over. We've been talking about Brazil today, but I want you to zoom out.
Think about the broader implications here.
Exactly. Think about the billions of dollars in international aid sent to developing nations globally every single year. Aid for infrastructure, schools, hospitals.
We demand transparent accounting from those governments.
We demand they publish their budgets. But based on the staggering data we learned today, if those massive international organizations are only checking spreadsheets in an office in Geneva?
And not sending people to physically count the bricks.
How much of that global aid is completely fictional? How many phantom hospitals exist only as a line item in a PDF document?
It is a terrifying question, and it suggests the cycle will just keep repeating itself until we bridge the gap between the ledger and the physical ground.
The missing money will just keep funding the bigger houses of the bureaucrats. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive today. I hope it changed how you look at wealth and the true cost of corruption.
Keep questioning the numbers.
And never, ever just trust the spreadsheet. We'll see you next time.